Hello everyone, I'm Taylor Pace and I'm going to be telling you about stock markets around the world. Some of you may be wondering, what is a stock market? The stock market is the market in which shares of publicly held companies are issued and traded either through the exchanges or over-the-counter markets. Stock markets are one of the most vital components of a free market economy. The stock market gives the public a small slice of ownership in someone's company. Stock markets also give an individual the potential to grow initial sums of money into large ones and become wealthy without taking the risk of starting a business. There are at least 20 different stock exchanges around the world, but today I want to tell you about 3 of the biggest stock exchanges. The first is the Shanghai Stock Exchange, the second is the Euronext Stock Exchange, and the third is the London Stock Exchange. These 3 stock exchanges are some of the largest in the world and are a vital part of the global economy. London's copper futures jumped higher yesterday due to strong trade data out of top consumer China, oil price gains, and firmer Asian equities. They were up. Exports increased in March, first time in 9 months. They were up 1% year over year in March versus a 25.4% drop in February. Imports fell less than economists expected over the same period. Imports declined 7.6% in March compared to February's fall of 13.8%. Copper prices went up due to oil prices strengthening recently because of a potential deal to freeze production between major producers. Oil and copper go hand in hand as a part of a basket of commodities in a fund. Shares in Asia also rose with the Shanghai Composite Index up 1.4%. Equity investors at the beginning of this year have had an extremely rough start in 2016 for the Euronext Stock Exchange. The Central European country Slovakia is in a group of small stock markets that have made gains this year. This year, Slovakia's minuscule Slovak share index is up 6.4% in February, taking gains for the past 12 months to 36.6%. Analysts say the potential reasons for the increase in the Slovak share index are the Slovakian economy's relative outperformance and the fact that the market is just so small. Another reason is the lack of liquidity because Slovakia does not have the same flow of international investors jumping in and out of shares on global themes. Despite whatever the reason is, Slovakia's relatively strong economic growth is expected to continue for now. The London Stock Exchange Group, which runs the operations of the London Stock Exchange, are in progressive talks to merge with Börse, which is the Frankfurt Stock Exchange Group. The merger has the potential to happen, and if it does, it would create a dominant European exchange operator and create a rivalry to the big U.S. marketplaces. The British Prime Minister David Cameron set a date for a vote to leave the European Union. 3 days later, the London and Frankfurt-based market operators established discussions to create a business worth more than $28 billion. Regulators' approval of the merger between the 2 groups would have the London Stock Exchange Group owning 45.6% of the enlarged group, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange Group will own 54.4% of the group. The merger talks are being driven by derivatives, futures, and options that command higher margins because these are harder for rivals to duplicate. The United States has been in strong competition with European exchanges in these markets, and merging will take that pressure off of the European companies. And this next chart shows what happened to the shares of the London Stock Exchange and the Deutsche Börse shares whenever they announced the merger between the 2 companies. As you can see clearly in February, probably on the 16th, the shares just jumped way up when the plan was announced to merge. In conclusion, stock markets have an effect on the global economy. London shares went up in the London Stock Exchange just because top data came out of China, oil prices going up, and firmer Asian equities. Slovakia, despite European shares being down recently, is thriving due to market that is extremely small, and Slovakia will continue to thrive. The merger between the London Stock Exchange Group and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange Group has the potential to create a dominant European exchange operator, and the marketplace will rival that of the United States. And that is all we have for today. I thank you for joining. And y'all have a good night. I thank y'all for joining. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.